Okay, excellent. So before we start the afternoon session itself, I just wanted to share a couple of links on the chat. So you guys should check it out. I will definitely compile that to send it into an email as well. So you also have some of those links. So if you look at the link, a couple of them are actually from YouTube. This is specifically our Sibian channel. So typically we will do one video release or two, depending on the workload, on a specific topic. So let's say if you're interested in to understanding, say, what is SRE, right? So there is one YouTube video, about 40 minutes, to explain the basic concept. Same with the so-called digital transformation. So if you're interested, if you are okay to invest, say, a quick 30 to 40 minutes, check out the YouTube channel from Sibian, which is the company that I work for. We do have those kind of short video to give you a quick overview, what's it all about, what to look out for and whatnot. But again, more details, you probably need to actually attend some of the training courses that we conduct to actually help you to get up to speed. Okay. So like I said, I'll compile those as well at the end of the day, and I will send that out to you guys so you guys have a reference as well. Okay. Cool. Everybody is back. I presume. Let me just do a quick check. Siapa lagi yang muncul lagi? Okay, I'm still missing one person, which is who is this? Chapping. So I'm just going to try and quickly call him, and then we shall start. Right. Before we continue, is there any question that we need to tackle? This is specifically on what we have ended just now before lunch, which is on the topic on SRE. Any other things that you guys want to talk about or share with me? Ada ke tak? Okay. No for now? Okay, but keep the questions coming. Like I said, some of these topics are, like I said, I want to make it as relevant as possible to help you to understand what does that mean in your own context. Right. So just now we stop at continuous integration, continuous delivery, and deployment. CI/CD. That's the short form for that. Okay. Right. Let's move on. Definition. What is a service dominant logic? Okay. So it says here, it's a mental model, definition again, of an economic exchange in which organizations co-create value by applying the competency and other resources for the benefit of each other. So again, the keyword here is co-create value. Okay, economic exchange, that means you exchange it for a service or a credit or a value of sort, and you're actually co-creating using the competency of each other of the resources that we have. Maybe we combine with other service provider to do that. This is actually one of the key things of a service dominant logic. A lot of organizations now, if you look at Citibank, I remember a few years back when they interviewed the CEO of Citibank, they asked, what are you doing? They said, well, we're no longer a bank. The reporter was quite curious. He said, what do you mean you're no longer a bank? You're a Citibank, right? And they said, well, we're in the business of creating software. It's quite interesting how he actually mentioned that quote of sort to say that we are in the business of creating software. And he was quite right in the sense that he was saying that, hey, we will be creating digital product or software to help our customer in Citibank. So for BCA itself, right, I think you guys need to go back and think through to say that, okay, what is BCA going to create to support or to help our customers in the near or not so distant future? What would that be? What is that vision? Okay. How do we combine resources from another service provider, perhaps, in supporting our customer? Okay. Now, when we adopt the ITIL service value system, what we are trying to do is to enable. The keyword is to enable. So all of you here, once you've actually attended this training, you actually need to have that mindset to say that we are enabling the organization with high velocity, a faster way of delivering a value to our customer. Okay, so from things like from innovation to value realization. So all the tools that we'll be talking about for these 4 days, the concepts that we'll be talking about, these are the ones that ITIL is recommending that we adopt and apply in our daily work. Okay? It's not mandated. I repeat, is they recommend us to apply and adopt in our daily work. Okay? Now, the faster we do this, the better we do this, we apply the concept, the easier for the organization to move towards the high value velocity, so-called high velocity IT itself to enable it. Okay? So let's look at a few more definitions. Operating model. Okay, again, definition, it says that it's a conceptual or visual representation how an organization co-create value with its customer and other stakeholder. Again, when we create something, like I keep saying on in the morning, we do not create it for the sake of IT creating it. It has to be with the business and other stakeholders like the customer. What brings value to them? Okay, so also it's mentioned here, high velocity IT operating model. What does it mean? The definition says, digital technology plays a major role in co-creating value. Now, those of you who are very conscious of the IT these days, I mean, there's so many things happening, right? You're talking about UI, UX, you're talking about Agile, Scrum, you're talking about DevOps, you're talking about SRE, right? Or even simple things like cloud, blockchain. So the question is, all this technology, right? How could it apply or how could it become relevant in BCA's context? Something that I think we need to actually investigate. We need to actually look at it from the BCA context to say that, is this something that the BCA, or should I say the bank itself, should explore or look into? Okay, because if you're not doing it, your competitor next door looking at it very seriously. Okay, because this is nothing new. If you're not doing it, somebody else is looking at it. Okay, now if you look at it and say, John, this is not for BCA for now. This is not something we want to go into. This is not something we want to invest on. And we accept the risk that comes with that. That's perfectly fine. But it has to be a conscious, collective decision by the team. Okay, so this is something that I want to highlight very importantly for this kind of operating model. It has to be discussed. Right. Framework digital and organization, these are the values that it brings. 3, 4 points there. I'm going to let you guys to read that. So it says that there's a dedicated value stream, coordinate, you come up with products and services that is relevant. You automate processes where possible. Now, a lot of companies still use manual process. There's nothing wrong with that. But for efficiency, you should look at robotic process automation, RPA. There is a video as well, which I'll also share in the link later this evening. I'll compile it and send it across. There's an introduction to RPA, why people should look at RPA. Because a lot of stuff that we do, right, they are, right, regardless whether it's in operation, whether it's in continuum management or incident management, right, they are quite repetitive. So the question is, can we perhaps automate it so that we don't have to spend too much time on some of this stuff which is mandatory, but very, very boring. It's something that you can make it so-called do better or run better in that sense. Okay, so automation is something also ITIL also highly recommend that we also look at the way that our process run, the way we do things as well. Okay, so operating model with digital, that's something that we need to consider. Those are the various factors. Right. Service value system. Again, this is just a reminder, a flash of the slide. Okay, that the core of the thing is actually the service value chain, right? Digital product, digital life cycle, the digital management practices, the governance, the guiding principle. We apply that and we provide the value. Okay. definition of digital product. Keyword here, digital technology, significant role in the goods, the resource, and associated service interaction. Okay. Ding, definition slide. Please take down notes. It will come out in the exam. Okay. There's a lot of them. I apologize because this is, ITIL loves to give definition. We have to actually go through them. So you probably have to, like I said, be familiarized with some of this. Okay. Again, like I said, it's an English exam. You probably need to use the same keyword. Okay. Right. Digital service. What is a digital service? Okay, so it states here, what is a digital service? So the service that is actually based on using digital technology, it's commonly known as a digital service. So it's mentioned here, online banking, ride sharing like Grab or Uber. I'm sure you guys have it, right? A platform of ordering food of sort, or Shopee or Lazada of sort, whereby you go shopping online. Applications on mobile phones or web portal that we actually provide them to for customers to interact with us digitally. So that is actually a definition of a digital service. So same with your service desk internally. Do you have a service desk portal that your customer internally can actually log a ticket instead of calling you? I'm sure you guys have, right? Right? Or even an escalation or a service request to say that, hey, I want to request certain things. They can actually self-service and click on that submission of forms. Your registrar, your so-called access will be granted accordingly based on your profile and all that stuff. So those can be or are considered as digital service. Okay, so you already have some form of this, but the thing to look at is how can we make it better, or is there a way to deliver it slightly differently? Even things like self-help or knowledge management. How are you guys doing knowledge management at the moment? I'm just curious. Anybody can tell me how BCA handles that? Do you have a search function for knowledge document of sort? Like how do I reset password? You have that? Yes. Okay. Now, what if I don't want to read that one-page document? What are the alternatives? So I can read the document to reset my password. I can call up the service desk. Apa lagi? What else can I do? Any idea?
You will
have
be given a role permission to access specific function based on the role that you get.
All right. Is it possible for me to watch a short video of sort? Do you have that internally?
Oh, doing what? Sorry.
No. That means that if I want to reset my password, I want to know how to do it. Is there a video, a short video that I can watch, which will teach me how to reset my password in BCA?
There is.
No, for right now.
No, for right now? No?
No, I don't think we have some document or video to teach us how to reset the password. We just call the team that manage the password as now as security team, and that's it. They guide us.
Okay. My recommendation, you might want to set up a self-service portal for users to reset it. That will be one. Okay. Documents, if you don't have, probably to set up a knowledge management portal that people can search and get the steps, maybe a one-pager on what are the steps to do to reset my password. That's one. Another alternative, a lot of organizations that I used to work for, we are shifting away from those, even the document steps. We are actually doing what we call a TikTok or a YouTube video, 2 to 3 minutes. Okay? Because sometimes user, they are like me, they don't like to read.
Yeah,
You send a
visual.
3-page document, right? They don't want to read. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if you ask me to watch a video for 3 minutes, I am happy to invest 3 minutes and actually watch that.
Mm.
Okay. So if you send me a PDF document, which is like 5 pages, I'm not going to read that. But if you maybe send a small paragraph, a couple of steps, yeah, maybe I will. But compared to a video, I would prefer a video, being a more visual kind of person. So a lot of organizations, which I actually suggest to them, is that, look, you need to look at it, your digital services, right? I know you have all this thing in place. What is the next thing that you might want to consider? Okay. And one of the teams that I used to work for, I actually set a KPI for my team to say that let's produce one video every month. So at the end of the year, we will have 12 videos explaining some of the basic FAQ questions in a video format. So that's one way to keep the staff engaged and also keep our internal customers engaged as well, that they can actually view a video to say, okay, how do I request this report? Or how do I print or extract this data from our system, for example? Okay, something to consider. That's for your digital service, right? Or how do I do this? How do I do that kind of thing? Okay, so it's not just the screen capture. You can put a person in front of a screen. Like I said, you already have all the equipment, right? You all have a phone that you can record a video, right, in the office, right? Yeah, do that and edit it. And most of the editing software you don't have to buy. It's actually come pre-installed as well in some of the operating systems. So you already have that. Okay, cool. Right, next one, service interaction. When we talk about service interaction, these are the 3 things that we talk about. Service action. What does the service does? Second, access to resource, which is to you and me. We are considered resource, right? Transfer of goods, which is the third thing. Is there a goods being transferred because of the service that is being done? So service interaction, 3 things. I repeat again, service action, access to resource, transfer of goods. Okay? It has to have a combination of this. Any question on this one? No? Again, definition. These are a lot of definition slides. Okay, cool. So this is, again, another diagram explaining the previous slide. When you say, okay, between us as a resource, when we provide the product or digital service, when the consumer or the customer actually takes that, what are we doing? So the 3 things we mentioned, the service action, access to resource, the transfer of goods. Okay, so it's actually that interaction between us and the customer. Now, customer in this case can be internal customer, it can be external customer to the organization. Okay, so we must be very clear, what are we providing in that sense? Okay, and all of this all comes back in ITIL that talks about the outcome is the value the customer gets or the consumer gets. Okay, right. Now, this is a diagram which explains how we co-create. Okay, again, we've been talking about co-creating for quite a few times, right? This morning, right? To say that, okay, we all have a service from IT or from business that they want to do. So how does it actually comes together? Okay, so there is an overlapping of things that we need to actually look at from the perspective of a service, right? Whereby the digital product actually needs to be co-created. So the business may want to do certain activities or certain things. Say, for example, they might say, hey, for this year, we want to expand our customer base by another 5%. So the question is, how does IT support this? Okay, so we say expand the customer base. So do we do digital marketing? Do we help provide that? Do we do what? How can I do we to support that? Or maybe we want to say, okay, we want to cross-sell more banking products within the existing customer pool. which is the premium sector, for example. So people who have a deposit, say, 10 million US dollar in Bank Central Asia, we want to cross-sell more products, for example. So what are those products that we want to cross-sell? How can we provide that? How does IT actually support the business to do that? So that co-creation, right, is something that we need to actually talk to the business to say that how can we actually help each other in that sense? Because the customer at that segment may have a need, or they may not know they have a need, that, or they may not even know that BCA have those products that can actually meet their needs. So how can we actually do that? Okay. So do you guys discuss that internally with your business team, or you guys are mainly just okay, we jaga IT ya, IT kita jaga, yang lain tu you jaga. How you guys do that? Do you guys have those interaction? Yes, no?
In the IT, we have a application group. They do interaction with the business.
Okay, but you don't interact with the business?
We interact with the application team.
I recommend everybody to have an interaction with the business team. Don't leave it to the application team, because application team could be very focused on application only. Nothing wrong with that, but I think you guys need to reach out to the business. So if you don't have any friends with the business side, I strongly recommend you start making some friends. Seriously. Because in order to make ITIL 4, which is the high velocity, works, right, you need to know somebody to explain to them, and for them to explain to you what they are driving. There has to be a co-creation. That means a coming together. My recommendation. Okay, so normally I will start by, perhaps you want to invite a few friends for in locally Malaysia, we call it teh tarik session, to have a pisang goreng, with milk tea kind of thing. We sit down, we chit chat, get to know them. We ask, hey, what's your KPI this year? Seriously, or what you guys are doing this year on the business side? Then they will probably ask, hey, what you guys are doing on the IT side? I mean, apart from the application, right? What are you doing? So start by sharing those kind of a session. Okay. One thing that I do with my team, we have a departmental meeting. So normally we provide lunch, and then we invite them to come and actually join us. So after that, you say, oh, John, I didn't know you guys do this. What system is this? This is the back end, right? You say, yeah, boss. We explain this is what we do. And then, of course, my staff or my team members will ask, hey, what you guys do on the business side? Can you share a little bit more? You guys are driving this or a campaign, right? Of sort, right? Increasing, let's say, the cross-selling of different products, right? What's your strategy? How can we help? That communication. Okay, don't have to invite the whole kampong. Don't. Probably one or two people to go. Start by building that relationship. Okay, don't leave it to seriously the application team. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with application team taking the lead, but each of us here in your own business unit, in your own function, right? You should be able to reach out to the business. Satu dua orang cukup lah, kira sekurang-kurangnya lah. Okay, start small. So over time, they might invite you. So I get invited at times, right, to join some of the business meeting. And they say, hey, why are you here? I said, I don't know, got invited. Actually, I know why I'm here. I'm invited because they asked me as an advisor, right? They say, hey, John, we want to do this, right? Can you guys support? Can you guys make this happen for us? Because if I'm running project, they say, hey, John, I need somebody who is very good at this. Can you nominate somebody on your team to help us to manage this rollout? They say, yeah, definitely. But you have to explain to me, what is it you're trying to do? What's your timeline? Whether it's realistic, not realistic. I mean, could we sembang? Could we discuss? Don't leave it to application team. This co-creation thing. We all need to take a keen interest in the organization, in how things work, how we can contribute and do more. That's my biggest advice to you when you talk about this co-creation thing. Okay. This is very key from a particular experience perspective. Okay, cool. Next. Now, for a customer journey, typically these are the things that will happen. These are the things that will, the process that people will go through in that sense. Okay, so you actually need to actually know that at each of these steps, how can you actually go and actually do better? So let's go to the next slide, which talks about the customer and the service provider. Service provider in this case is us. We are providing that product and service. So you talk about the exploration phase, the engage, offering of the service, the agreement, onboarding, then the co-creation and the realization of the value. This is the actual customer journey model. So each of this, that's why I said if you have a friend in the business side or on the other side of the fence, you guys can actually talk through this, at least have some appreciation why the business is pushing this so hard, or why IT is so adamant to say that we are doing it this way. You need to make sure that the communication channel is actually open. Okay, so the diagram says that this is actually a co-creation part whereby you work together in that sense. Now, of course, there is the visible line, there is a service interaction and all that, right? I'm just going to put that up. Okay, so understanding all the phases. So again, this is just relating to the previous slide. So if I go back to the previous slide, this is the things that we need to do. Okay, so a lot of time I will even ask our colleagues in the IT, I said, do you understand the market that we are in? I say, what do you mean? If we're in the financial market, who are our competitors to BCA? Do you even know? What market share do they take? Who are our stakeholders? You must say, no, aku jaga IT, itu bukan aku punya pasal ni. Cannot. You must have a keen interest to know this, because if not, you're not in the right business. I will say that. Okay. The engaging, how you engage with the business, that is very, very key. How you offer or shape the demand. Maybe the business say, John, I want to go to the cloud. You might say, hey, John, we're not ready. Why? I don't have anybody who knows how to use the cloud. Okay, so how long it takes you to train somebody? How long it takes you to pick up this cloud skill? 3 months, 6 months? Or do I outsource now? How? You see, that shaping that demand, right? When the business say, hey, aku bayar sekarang, pergi sekarang, naik, I want to go to Awan sekarang, So how do we do that, right? So you need to actually have that dialogue, because if you don't know anybody, and if the application say, okay lah, boleh, pass to you, you're going to be like, you dah janji. Hey, cannot lah. So you must understand why that I keep saying that the dialogue is important, right? And agree the expectation. Those are also important things. What you can or cannot do. Be open and honest, because this is within the one team, one family. Okay, of course, initially people may say, hey, you're supposed to be IT, right? You semua tahu kan? Actually, no. I don't know everything. Betul? Right? But you can help to provide that. Okay. Now, onboarding, co-creating, and then realizing the value. The value is also very important. Must ask the business, if we go to cloud tomorrow, what value are we trying to realize? Please document and agree on that first before we go. Because at the end of the day, the leadership team, the bosses atas tu, is going to say, hey, kamu orang ni dah belanjawan gila-gila, so what's the value? Cok sendiri ke? Dah naik awan. Okay, buat apa? Please agree on those things, the value, because you don't want to be kena tembak in front of bosses. Betul? Okay, so that's why this process is important. That's why I keep saying it's good to have friends. It's good to actually discuss and document some of these things. Right? Very, very important. In real life, it happens before. You don't agree on the value, then it didn't realize, or nobody know how to measure it. IT lah. Spend so much money lah. Tak jalan. What does that mean? Be careful. Okay, right. So, sorry. So again, that is just the process itself. Okay. So there are ups and downs, whereby as you engage, okay, and you go through the 7 process. I'm not going to go into detail. It's actually on a table here that you guys can read later on. But please understand, all these processes, right, is just a framework. The key thing is still each of us having that engagement. That is the most important gist of all this. You can memorize the whole table. In reality, you still have to discuss with the business. You still have to go through that co-creation. Okay, cool. Next. This is actually a little bit more challenging. So if you look at the diagram now, used to be a diamond in the middle. Suddenly on the right-hand side, they have added something like a tower. So supposed to be just the value. You notice that they have wrapped around things like offering, products, resources, and this thing called other service provider. So let's use the example of going, let's say a mobile app. Now, when you do a mobile app, typically you can't be hosting it locally. You probably have to host it, say, on the cloud, on a temporary or maybe a semi-permanent kind of a fixture, right? So that's why it says here there's a other service provider. So a lot of times you can't be doing things that are not your core. So from IT perspective, right, you need to be consciously making a decision to say that, can we do it internally, or I have to get somebody to help us, to complement us? Okay, that's where the other service provider comes in. Okay, so cloud could be one of them. If you have a cloud service provider to assist BCA to set up perhaps a private cloud or a hybrid cloud of sort to enable you, or you could be outsourcing your programming or the actual coding part, or maybe the UI UX, that means the interface of the apps, to somebody else instead of having a group of designers in-house. That could be potentially something that you need to actually consider. Okay, so what this diagram says, in creating the value, don't just look at what BCA can offer, look at what BCA and your other partners can perhaps combine and offer. So like the shopping platform of, say, Lazada or Shopee, right? I noticed a lot of banks are offering a discount or offering, say, a percentage of sort if they use their credit card on those shopping platforms. So those customers who actually have your credit cards, when they buy from those shopping platforms, they actually earn extra points. Right? So those are the what we call the extra value that the customer may be looking for. Right? Or even going to Starbucks or certain cafe or restaurants that you have, right? You say, hey, use our BCA card, you get an extra 5% rebate, for example. Hey, I don't mind. I can belanja a few more teh tarik to all my friends. Yeah, let's do that, or coffee in that sense. Okay, cool. Understand the concept of this slide is talking about you and your partners in that ecosystem. Okay. Any examples you guys want to share with me on how BCA have done this, apart from those I've shared? Anybody? Can you think of? Ada ke tak? No, not yet. Thinking this could be a new business venture for BCA. Okay, this could be a new business venture for BCA. You can also partner with Dell or HP of the sort. You're probably thinking Dell, HP of the sort. Okay, what if Dell or HP, you partner with them to say that if you use BCA credit card, we give you interest-free payment for 12 months. That's potentially a new product, right? Or similar to kind of a higher purchase kind of thing, right? Okay, so you of course calculated the price with the interest in there, and then you market it as an interest-free payment with BCA credit card by buying a Dell laptop or an HP laptop. So potentially could be one. So there are multiple ways where BCA can actually diversify or partner with other people to provide that service. Can be done. You just have to be creative. Again, these things you still need a friend in the business side to say, oh, IT, we can provide this workflow. We can actually do this for you, but you need to help us to sell the idea, perhaps. Or you know somebody in Dell, Right. Value chain and DevOps. Now, when we talk about DevOps, anybody done DevOps before? No, not using DevOps. DevOps basically just say continuous deployment, continuous integration, continuous delivery, right? So if you see that cycle there, from the left-hand side, you actually build something, you code it, you plan, build, code, order, right? Test, deploy, release, run, monitor, then go back again. So it's actually a infinite loop, continuous. Because the thing is, if you have a digital product, say a banking system, you can't switch it off tomorrow because you still have customer using it, right? You can't switch it off. So the question is, what else can we make it better? Is it an improvement? Is it a release of a new feature that we encourage the customer to try e-banking more? Why? Because it's more efficient. I don't have to have so many bank tellers at the branch. How? Okay. So this concept of DevOps, it's very, very key. Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is where ITIL and DevOps gabung. The sambung gabung sekali. They combine together. So if you notice, on the top there, you have that plan, engage, design, obtain, transition, support, deliver, and operate is actually part of that DevOps. So if people ask you, John, DevOps and ITIL macam dua benda yang beza kan? Tak sama ni. So how do you combine? This slide tells you it can be combined. Where are the things that you focus on? Okay. So it can be combined in that sense. Okay, especially the service value chain as we go through the different phases of ITIL itself. Okay, don't worry, it's a bit dry. Just understand the concept that it is actually there. Right, moving on. Next one. Demand, requirement, service, value. So again, this is looking at it from a different perspective, where ITIL says you can actually manage it from the consumer. That means your stakeholders' point of view are using the consumer lens, are using their point of view to look at it. How do we actually address that from a service value chain perspective? Okay, this is probably just the high level. Let's look at it in a little bit more detail. This is the one that you need to be aware of, or should I say the next slide when I actually put it up. Okay, so you still have that demand, the plan, the improve and all that, right? It's actually in that loop. This is actually how it runs. So see, pay attention to the lines in the so-called, in the slide. So you start from demand, it flows to R, which is the requirement. Then it goes to the product itself. It goes to the service and you provide a value. This is how it actually flows. Okay. This is also one of the important diagrams to note if you're sitting for exam to know how it flows. But in reality, you will probably just run through the process to actually create it, which is the ITIL 4 process. Like I said, you look at the demand, you do the service value chain in the middle, and then you provide an value or output of sort. Okay, so this is just a combination of the DevOps with the service value chain. It's a bit complicated, but like I said, it's actually doable. Any question? Okay, a lot of theory stuff, guys. I apologize because this subject itself is a lot of concepts, a lot of theories. Okay, right. So for this one, this is also another depiction of the value stream, a bit more detail on how do you create the value. Okay, it's just talking about from the product perspective, from the resource perspective, what's the input, what's the output, what's the method that they can be used. So if you look at it, right, still from the left-hand side, which is the demand side, going to the right-hand side, which is the value. And in between the value stream, if you remember, is actually the activities that the resource actually does to produce an output. So if you look at it, it's an input, process, output model. Okay. So this is again a high-level theory explaining how that works. Okay. Now, again, if you look at this diagram, you're probably thinking just now it's very confusing, right? But I said now we are going to break it down into the resource and management. And in between, how do we operate? The resource, which is all of us, and we have the leadership team of management. We come together. How do we operate and provide that value? Okay. Now, again, this is no difference from the initial diagram. We look at the diamond diagram, whereby there is a governance, there is all that sort of stuff that actually applies to it. Okay, because this is actually required in order to manage the resource to actually deliver the value itself. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a quick moment. Any questions so far? Okay, it's very dry. It's just explaining the whole process in different ways, how we should create the value. It's just a lot of different diagrams. They explain the same thing. Sebenarnya sama je. Okay, but I need to explain this to you because this is how ITIL explains it. Okay, you have to just take note who are the people, the process, what do we do is actually all there. Okay, ITIL management practices. Again, definition. It says ITIL practices is to do what? To fulfill a specific purpose. So if we're doing availability management, that is what we're doing. If we're doing incident management, we're handling incident, right? So it's a specific purpose. Okay, the 4 dimension. Anybody still remember the 4 dimension? The balut or combined outside. There's 4 areas, and there's also 6. Don't remember? I suggest you draw that up again. You jump back to that. 4 dimension of service management, supporting the dedicated teams and tools. That's all there is. Okay. So again, there are 34 practices. This is explaining that again. General management, a pillar, service management, technical management. Okay, so there are 34 of them. Inside there are the various elements. So this is just explaining to say that in order to do ITIL, these are the things that they are suggesting that we look at. Again, if I go to the next slide, this is just explaining each of the value stream must have a certain practices that are assigned to it. So what are the practices you're probably thinking, John, that you're talking about? Those 34 of them is in this table. Okay, so it's a little bit small. So if you go back to the previous one that we saw in the morning, there was one table, which is the 3 towers itself. That's the one we're looking at. Okay, now this was a diagram that we need to remember. Like I keep saying, the 4 dimension, organization and people, information and technology, and suppliers, value stream and process. This is all there is to it. And the 6 external factors that are beyond your and my control. Okay. So you see, the whole thing that we've been talking for the last 15 minutes, right, all come back to the same diagram. It's just explaining in different ways. So as soon as you understand, you know what is actually impacting. Yep, habis cerita. Okay. Specifically, what you need to do in organization and people. Anybody can help me out on this one? What do we do in organization and people? Any idea? In organization and people, we need to make sure we have dedicated people and teams doing specific function. I repeat, ordinary people, you need to have dedicated team to do specific function. So I'm sure you have a finance team, right? Right? You have an IT team, and the IT team you also broken down to various business unit or specific team function, right? Service management, incident management, all those kind of things are all broken down into different areas, right? So organization and people is just talking a little bit more on that. There's nothing else. How the organization come together. And remember the ITIL 4 definition. What is an organization? Berapa orang? Do you remember? What's the definition of organization in ITIL 4 Foundation? Big question. Berapa orang dia? No idea. It could be seorang, satu orang, or a group of people. That's the definition. One person is an organization. A group of people is also an organization. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, cool. Next one. Information and technology. Apa itu information? Apa dia itu technology? Do you remember? Come on, guys. You've done ITIL 3, ITIL 4? No? Information is the data itself. The technology is the technology stuff that we apply. We buy a server, we buy a cloud, we buy a storage, we buy a router of sort. Those are the technologies. The information is the one that we keep our customers' data, their bank balance, right? How much they do the transaction of the transfer, bank transfer, and all that, right? So those are the data itself. And guys, please remember all this definition. If you find it somehow a bit not so-called easy to remember, you might want to review back some of the slides in the ITIL 4 Foundation itself. Okay. Partners and suppliers. What do we do here? Anybody? Who is our partner?
Vendor, I think.
Vendor, betul.
Vendors and partners.
Yeah. So what's the difference between a vendor and a partner? Anybody remember? There's a difference between a vendor and a partner.
Vendor is support our services to run.
Okay, partner?
Partners is like what? Partners.
Partners is a little bit more than vendors.
Yeah.
Okay. So the little bit more is they are aligned to our organization's vision and objective. I repeat, they are aligned to our organization vision and objective. So if they are your BCA partner, so whatever they do, they are not just giving their service, but they're actually supporting. They want to grow with BCA. So there is a difference between how you treat vendors and partners. Vendor tu you bayar je lah. Okay, berapa? Okay, satu travel ticket berapa? The X number of rupiah you bayar, siap kerja lah. Whereas a partner is not just doing that service or resolving of that ticket. They may sit down to you and say, Pak, sebenarnya how can we actually grow more business with you? How can we support you better? They will ask those kind of questions. They align to what is BCA going to grow next year or focus on which specific area that we can do more with you. Or you might want to do that. Hey, BCA is going to this specific area. Would you be interested to partner with us? Okay, so be careful. With, sorry, come again.
Working together with.
Okay, partners is very much working together. So their roadmap, what they are doing is also shared with you. You are also sharing your roadmap with them. And there are certain what we call an alignment. There are certain collaboration that you partner together. Okay, when we come to vendor management, right? I typically like to explain to my vendor, I said, look, if you're going to be my vendor, you're going to be for a short period of time. Contract habis, blah, next. But if you want to be my partner, you will have a long-term business with us. Okay, so there has to be some give and take. Yes, we have a contract, but you decide you want to be a vendor or you want to be a partner. how we treat you is going to be slightly different. Right? So with my vendor, they submit invoice, okay lah, berapa? 30 hari, okay lah, pass to finance. I campak sebelah pagar. But if it's my partner, guess what? I will call finance. Hey, tolong bayar on time. Difference, right? Because I want to make sure my partner support me mah. So I also support my partner mah. Ni dah siap ni, tolong bayar lah, process lah, invoice tu. Can we meet this month's payment cycle? Boleh ke tak? I will do that differently. Okay, are you doing that to your partners? If not, maybe you want to consider to treat them slightly different. Or when there's a change in our process, I will call my partners and say, hey guys, come, let's have a discussion. I want to explain to you, there's a slight change in how my finance process your payment. It used to be 2 cycle kan, sekarang ni 1 cycle. Okay, so when is the cut-off date? For 20 hari bulan. You please submit. You get what I mean? Where is a vendor? Okay, you don't submit, your problem. Okay, so there is a distinction on that. Value stream. Ooh, you remember what is the value stream? The work process. Very simple English, work process, the value stream. Okay, how do we actually process that? So if you think of an example of the hire purchase loan, what is the value stream of that? First, you have to isi borang, you have to provide certain supporting document. Then the hire purchase officer would have to review to see whether you meet the criteria, right? Or the submission or the amount or whatever. Then they do assessment, then they approve or reject. So that value stream itself, that is what the customer wants to see. At the end of the day, I would like to have the loan approved by the hire purchase loan officer, right? So that value is there. Okay, cool. Please remember this. These are all the basic stuff and all the external factors which is outside of our control, the political, the economical, the social, technology, legal, even environmental. This will also impact the way we deliver the service somehow. Okay, cool. Right. Pastel. What the hell is pastel?
Politic, economic, forget.
Social.
Social, yeah.
There we go. Yay! Well done, Ibu. You got 2 right. Okay, so this is pastel. Okay, so if you want to remember the 6 external factor, remember the word pastel. Ding, ding, ding. Exam, revision. Okay. VUCA. Apa itu VUCA? It's also an acronym. Give it a try.
Volatile.
Yes. Yep.
Uncertainty.
Yes.
Conformity. Ambiguity yang terakhir. The last is ambiguity.
Complexity and ambiguity.
Okay.
Complexity and ambiguity.
Why do people talk about VUCA? Why do people talk about VUCA? Have we experienced VUCA before? COVID-19 is a VUCA.
Because
right?
the condition of the economic policy vertical is changing.
Yes. It's changing very fast. Remember when we had COVID-19? I'm sure you guys had a lockdown, right? We also had a lockdown, right? I can't travel to office. My boss said, can you please work from home? Right?
Yes.
So it's volatility, uncertainty. When is the lockdown going to be lifted? No idea. Right? When we first started about 2 years ago, right? Then the complexity. I even called my HR. What if I need to masuk office? Masuk office, isi borang dulu. Isi borang, apa borang? Request lah, permission lah. Siapa kena approve? HR director kena approve. I said, your boss kena approve. Then he said, HAC director kena approve. 3 orang? Say, CEO? Yeah, CEO pun kena approve. 4 orang. Then I said, okay, then you also need to book a place. John, you nak duduk which cubicle? I said, why? We need to know which cubicle, which lantai you are at. I'm like, which lantai pula ni? I have to give all the details. And I have to inform the security guard. what time I'm going in the office and I have to do the saliva rapid test kit pula. Wow, so many complex things, right? So I said, okay, forget it, not going to the office, too complicated. Okay, ambiguity. I asked HR, he said do this. I asked SSE, asked me to do another thing. So I'm like, kamu orang tak sembang ke? Ni dua proses, dua procedure ni, mana satu? I get confused. I said, sorry, please help me out. Okay, now there's another definition of VUCA. This definition, which I'm going to put it into the chat, you guys can actually check it out. Let me just type that in. Seems to be, I have a system hang. Okay, here's another definition. It's called, let me explain, where is it? Okay, there's another definition is under www.vuca-world.org. So if you actually Google that one, right? So the V stands for vision. So when another way of looking at VUCA is you must have the vision. Okay. Second of all, the U from uncertainty, you change it to understanding. Okay. Then the C, which is the complexity, we need to provide the clarity. Okay. So as a leader, you need to provide the clarity to your team. And the last one, which is the ambiguity, we need to provide the adaptability and the agility. So VUCA, which is the standard one, which is very like negative, you can actually turn it around. Like I said, I'll send an email with the link. You guys can check out that website, which I found quite interesting. They call it the vision, understanding, the clarity, and adaptability and agility. Okay, so don't just look at it from the negative point of view. Actually, can be turned into a very positive traits that we embody, that we actually talk about it. Okay, but please realize this is a VUCA world at the moment. Everything is changing by the minute, by the day. Okay, just want to share a little bit on that. Right, next, governance and management. So who are your governance body? You have Central Bank of Indonesia. Siapa lagi? Who else?
OJK.
Okay, siapa lagi?
Government, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The one who directed and controlled.
Okay.
OJK.
What about your PCI standard? You guys provide credit card service, right? There is a PCI standard
PCI,
that we need to comply, right?
Yeah. Comply.
Yeah. What about GDPR?
From BI, Bank Indonesia.
Yep. Right. So please be aware when we talk about governance of management, we cannot skip. Locally, I call it wajib, means you must have, that's non-negotiable. Okay. So as much as we improve the process, whatever the authorities or the management say that, John, this is the governance process, please comply. Do not skip. Or you get into an audit situation, not very pleasant, trust me. Okay, despite the fact that I have a lot of auditor friends who always question and say, why you do this? Why is it that way? Show me the evidence. How did you document this? Who approved this? You know, okay. So please make sure do not compromise on governance. Right. In order to succeed in digital transformation, we actually need to talk about and apply all those things that we've been talking about since before lunch. Agile lah, lean lah, resilient lah, SRE lah, DevOps lah, continuous improvement lah. Okay? So we actually need to apply all these things. So all the concepts that we talk about, I would encourage you when you do revision tonight, list it down on a piece of paper to say that these are the concepts in order for BCA to be digital, to be a digital transform organization. We need to adopt all of this, not just one. Okay, so there are I'm sure that there are plenty of room for improvement. Again, don't go crazy. Don't go back to your boss. Boss, John said we need to do all of this. No, yes, we need to do all this. You have to pace yourself with a timeline, with a roadmap of slowly doing all these things. Okay? Question? Very heavy? Shall we take a quick break? You need more caffeine? You need more teh tarik?
Yeah,
Sugar?
caffeine.
Caffeine.
Yes,
Caffeine.
Okay, let's take a 15 minutes break. It's now, at my clock here is 1503. Come back in 15 minutes, so it's 1518. So that will be 1418 your time. Okay, take a 15-minute break. Like I said, we'll do a recap before we move on to the next module. So basically, we've finished the ITIL 4 revision, which is the foundation concept. And then we talk about what are the basic stuff we need to do in order to get into high velocity, which is the concept. Okay, so I want to do a revision after we come back from the break before we start about the IT culture. Again, there's a lot of concepts and theory stuff. Okay, and then probably open up for a little bit for discussion. Okay, so take that break. I think come back in a little bit more than that. And now it's 15:04 already. So let's take it at 15:05. Come back 15 minutes. So that's 15:20 on my clock. That will be 13:20 on your clock. Is that okay? Am I correct?
Okay.
Cool. 15 minutes break. I will buzz you. All right. Have fun, guys.
Okay.
Take that
you.
caffeine. Everybody back? Hi, Kim Ping.
Hello. Hey, John.
Hey. Good to see that you're back. You were busy just now?
Actually, I'm here. All the while I'm here. You can see actually there's two names in the chat.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention because just now when we started, we didn't have you. That's all. It's okay.
All right.
Right. So, guys, I've actually put into the chat the website for the other definition of VUCA, which we spoke about. It's, like I said, quite an interesting concept where somebody has done something that is very negative, that's very well discussed in the business world, to something that's a little bit more different and positive. So check out that website. There's quite a few articles or blog on that website which explain how we should provide a bit of a leadership by providing vision, understanding, clarity, adaptability, and agility in addressing this uncertainty world that we are in. Okay, so not everything is negative. Despite the fact that it is, but I think if we choose to change our perspective, we will probably experience or see a different side of things. Okay, so I hope to offer you that as well. Right, we have finished the two modules, or I mean the modules that were previous to us this morning. Now, I will proceed to module 3 and talk a little bit about that. We won't be able to finish module 3. We'll probably be finishing about halfway through, and we will sambung and continue tomorrow morning. Now, before we continue tomorrow morning, I will probably want to do a quick recap of the two modules for tomorrow itself. So don't worry, we will do revision on that as well. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay, now we will have another break if you feel that you are feeling a little bit sleepy or this subject that we are on is very dry. Unfortunately, this is a very dry subject. So seriously, guys, stop and ask me question, okay? Please do not be shy, or if you need to get a bigger cup of coffee or Milo or I don't know, Ovaltine or a Chinese tea. Yeah, I'm all for that, except the Milo part. Milo is a bit too much for me. Kopi is good, or a good hot cup of Chinese tea, or instead of Chinese tea, I actually nowadays want to try different thing. You know, the flower tea. That means the bunga one. You actually put them in the pack and then you make tea out of it. It's actually not too bad. Yeah. I'll share my recipe one day if you're interested. Okay, so it can be chrysanthemum. That's one flower. I actually mix chrysanthemum with jasmine and with a bit of Chinese tea. It's a little bit simple, but I like it. Very refreshing, especially when you have a very oily meal. We have that a lot in Malaysia here. Right, let's continue. Okay, high velocity IT culture. So this module here says that in order for us to support or enable the organization or even our team to have the mindset, right, it actually comes down to this thing called culture, right? So we'll talk a little bit more on the behavior patterns, the things like the model and concepts of high velocity IT culture. They will also be relating to the guiding principle. You still remember how many guiding principles there are? Berapa, ingat tak?
7.
7.
7.
7, huh? Okay, but what are the 7? Can anybody name them?
Start where you
It's
are.
in the slide. It's in the
Focus
slide.
on value.
Yeah. From where you are, apa lagi?
Focus on
Focus on value.
Yep. Don't worry if you don't remember.
Keep
Revise that
lean.
later. Yeah. Okay. Good. I think you remember some lah. At least 3 to 4 lah. Not all 7 lah. Tak apa, boleh. We will do revision tomorrow. Right. Let's quickly run through the slide first. Again, like I said, it's not a trick question if you don't remember. Just highlighting that these are the things that are important to remember, because if you're going to sit for the exam, like I said, on Thursday itself, afternoon, the session, I will focus a lot more on that. Okay, right, cool. Right, quickly, key behavior pattern. Now, when we adopt ITIL, right, you want to make your organization or your team to be high velocity. These are the things on the slide that we need to encourage or need to display the behavior itself. Okay, you remember the old saying, right? Monkey see, monkey do. Simple to that. Okay, so we actually have to encourage that. So as a leader, you need to make sure that you actually do that. So first, accept ambiguity and uncertainty. So how do we do this? Any idea? How do we accept ambiguity and uncertainty? Any example anybody can give me?
We prepare more than one solution, maybe.
Good. Have a buffer, have a backup plan. More than one solution, there is a backup plan. You also have to buffer in some unexpected. People got infected by COVID. They are not available for at least 1 week, right? So who can guarantee? Who can help? You must have a backup plan, right? So because these things happen, right? Despite you say that, hey, please stay at home, practice SOP, distancing, people may get affected, right? So what's the backup plan? So it's very uncertain sometimes. Please make sure you have some buffer as well, okay? So typically I will normally build, if I'm running a project, I will actually build at least a minimum of 1 to 2 weeks. Now, my customers sometimes don't like it. They say, hey, John, why you want to build in buffer? I said, well, people may get sick, right? People may have an accident, or I may not be available. We must be able to have plan B. There must be a buffer of stock. Okay. Next one, trust and be trusted. How do you do that? Do you trust your team? That's the first question I'm going to ask you. You have a team, right? Do you trust your team?
Yes.
Next
Sometimes.
question.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Oh my God.
Honest question, honest answer.
Okay. Ibu, boleh. Now the next
Yes.
question is, does your team trust you?
Of course. No, I don't know.
But for you, it's sometimes. Aduh, apalah. Okay. Now, trust is a two-way thing. Trust is a two-way thing. I think as a leader, we need to extend our trust to our team. For me, I will trust my team, but there is one extra thing that I will do is to validate. I repeat, trust is a two-way thing. I will always trust my team, but I will always validate. Okay, let me explain. Let's say if I give an assignment to one of my team members, okay? His name is James, right? So I said, James, can you please help me to do this? And then I said, James, how much time you need to complete this task? James tell me 5 days. So if I trust him, what do? You typically just let him do, right? But I do one more thing, which is to validate. So on day 2, I will meet up with James. I said, James, how are we doing? Do you need help? Anything else I can do to contribute to make sure you are successful to complete this? Is there any possibility to finish it in 4 days or 4.5 days instead of 5? So I will do those validation with him. Okay. So yes, I trust him because I see that he has the skills, he has got the knowledge, he's done this before, but I still validate. Okay. So trust is important. Validate. Now, of course, if your team asks you to say, hey, John, can you do this for me? I need to be shown that I am trusted as well. So what do I do as a leader? I provide an update where possible. Okay, I provide an update where possible. Let's say it takes 3 days for me to do this. That my team has asked me to do something. I will provide an update and say, hey guys, I'm actually doing this now, or I can't do this today. I will have to postpone it to do it tomorrow. I provide an update. So they are very clear that I can be trusted. So trust is a two-way thing. Don't just you go and ask, hey, what's the update? What's the update? You yourself also have to provide some update to your team if you want your team to trust you, right? Is that fair? Okay. So if you're not doing it this way, I would encourage you in order to practice trust and be trusted. Like I said, as a leader, trust and validate. But when you are being trusted, you should provide an update and be open where possible. Now, there are certain decisions which is actually management decision. Explain what can or cannot be done. Because we all have our limits of authority. There's certain things that we can't do. There's certain things that we cannot say. Just say, look, I can't tell you because I don't know the answer, or I don't have the answer for now. Let me find out. Or if it's a management decision or a board decision, explain it as such. But also explain to say that from my perspective, as an employee, as a staff of BCA, whether I agree or don't agree, this is the decision. Boleh faham? Okay? Please be as authentic as possible because the trust and be trusted, right? It's something that you need to work within your team. If you have a team that has got a full trust between the both sides, you guys can do magic. Trust me. You guys will do magic. Okay? But you need to display that right behavior that we use that example we talk about. Okay? Now, next one, continually raise the bar. How do we do that? Macam mana nak buat? How do we raise the bar? We go to the gym. How? Any idea? Sorry, I don't have a gym membership. How do I do that? How do I raise the bar? How?
What is raise the bar, John?
Okay, what's raise the bar? Very good question. Now, raise the bar means you actually need to improve, do faster, do it in a shorter time. So how do you do that?
With tools?
Automation.
All right, with tools, with automation, but most importantly is to do what?
Measurement.
Measurement. That's cool. More importantly, also, please instill the mindset that guys, yes, we are processing 100 applications of hire purchase loan nowadays. We may have to improve that next year to 105, 110. Communicate that mindset early that you are expected to raise the bar, lift the standard. Walaupun sekarang buat 100, cantik, but next year, boss may come back and say, hey John, 100 tak cukup 110, 105. Communicate that to the team first. Okay? Communicate that to the team first. This is very important. Do not leave it to next year, then you start talking. You need to start talking now. You need to understand the baseline, what are we working on. If we're doing 100, next year we're going to expect it to be doing 105. We may have to do alternation. We may have to measure it. Does that make sense? It's important to inform the team. We are doing this much. It takes 3 hours to do this. Next year, we may be asked to finish it in 2.5 hours. How can we do faster? Ask that question with the team. They maybe say, John, tak boleh. Tak mungkin. Not possible. Okay, how do we make it possible? Is automation one way? If we streamline the process another way? How? Okay, part of continuous improvement. In ITIL, this is a very, very common topic. So that's why I keep saying that you guys have now learned this. You need to actually explain this mindset to your team. Please explain this. Don't last minute. Guys, KPI, we are setting it now 110. We're like, alamak, what is this? Don't tell them upfront. Hey, next year, if we're doing 100 already, we're going to raise the bar. Faham? Understand? Mindset. All those things that you mentioned are good, but I will also encourage you to explain the mindset. Help customer, job done. How do we do this? Are we already doing this? Itu bukan kerja saya, dia, sebelah. This is not my responsibility.
Focus on the value, what we can give them.
Yeah. Just with the customer in mind. It may not be your job, but you can actually help to bring it to the relevant team, the relevant people to help solve the customer issue. Okay? Taking ownership, taking responsibility. That will be helping to get the customer job done. That's very key. Again, it's a mindset change. Okay? The last part, commit to continual learning. How do we do this? Do you guys do this? I know you are attending the training today, so you actually committed to continual learning, right? Somehow, right? Or your boss nominated. I don't care, Ibu, you're going, huh? You're going to the training, huh? Forced to come, is it? So how do you do this?
We are trapped.
You are trapped. Okay, paham. So how do you do this?
Feedback.
Any idea? Yes, Eddie.
Feedback.
Okay, one way. How do you encourage people to do continual learning?
Culture.
Any idea? Sorry?
Implemented culture to always learning.
So to implement a culture always learning, let me share a little bit of my past experience. There was, when I first started on implementing this, I said it at the beginning of the year. So we have company KPI, right? One section. Then we have division KPI, right? Then we have department KPI, which is our department. Then it comes to individual KPI. So what I did was, on my one-on-one session, or even during the department KPI, I said, we're going to have this year continual learning. Everybody was like, John, salah ubat lagi ke atau belum ubat lagi? So I said, no. Continual learning, which means you need to clock in certain number of hours of learning. Learning? Well, how do we do that? Remember, I told you I have this monthly lunch departmental meeting. So I said, okay, during the lunch departmental meeting, we will eat for half an hour because I'm ordering food. We eat inside the meeting room. After that, we have 1.5 hours together, right? You will need to pick the learning topics, where it could be a Microsoft e-learning, could be a Google Cloud, Bitcoin, or whatever. You need to learn those topics. You need to clock in and show me that you have actually met those hours. So as part of your KPI, what I did was I said that for the first year, you need to have 40 hours of learning. It's part of your KPI. So if you don't meet, don't ask for increment, don't ask for bonus. I'm not going to nominate you. Some my staff was like, how to do? What to do? Where to learn? So of course, during the one-on-one, so identify, okay, for you, these are the topics that I suggest or recommend. Here are the e-learning resources. Here are the things. Now, your job is to clock in the hours and show it to me. Does that make sense? So if you're using Avanti, which is the service desk system, right? I'm sure there are modules in there, right? So the question is, does everybody know how to use that? If not, maybe you need to actually enforce some learning to say that, okay, let's learn how to do the reporting module. Because now we all clicking, standard report, standard report, standard report, standard report. Is that sufficient? Probably not. Yeah. So that's one way. that you guys can consider, which I actually did. Now, eventually, the idea was picked up by my bosses. What they did was, every Jumaat, lepas solat Jumaat, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Malaysian time to 5 o'clock, they call it the mandatory learning hours. Mampus semua. Oh, John B punya pasal ni, salah ubat. The whole company need to do 2 hours of learning. Everyone complain to me, hey John, why you suggest? I said, no, you want to high velocity IT, right? You have to learn as an organization. And HR was tracking it. Lagi mampus. Silakak John B ni memang salah ubat tiap hari. All I have to do. But actually, after a while, you see the organization is actually moving in a different direction. Does that make sense? Okay. So, or you can actually mandate yourself to say that seriously, 40 hours, remember when I first started, right? 40 hours, it's not a lot, you know. You know why? There are 52 weeks in a year. And if you only allocate 1 week to do 1 hour, that's only for what? 40 weeks. How much time we spend on TikTok? How much time we spend on YouTube or Facebook? More than an hour a week, right? I'm asking to learn something new 1 hour a week and you're telling me, hey, tak boleh, tak jadi, tak mampu. So how to do this? Think about it. This continual learning, right? I know you guys are here in the training, but I think it's something that you guys need to start thinking, because in order to change or upskill yourself, to upskill the team, to change the trajectory of BCA, to make BCA better, this is one of the building foundation block. Okay, start small, maybe 1 hour per week. Because in a week or 5 days, right, you're working already, what, 40 hours? I'm asking only for you to spend 1 hour to improve yourself, to learn something new. That should be a habit. Make sense? Any questions so far on this one, continue learning? Okay, so if you are a manager, I will recommend you to perhaps to set it as a KPI, assuming your HR don't kacau you. Make sense or not? Okay. Now, if you have question, John, nak belajar apa? PM tepi. I will give you a whole list of topics. Banyak je. Okay. No, seriously, it's actually for you and your team's benefit. The continual learning, right? I cannot stress any further. Any foundation requires continual learning. Even if you come to this kind of training, it's also continual learning. Make sense? Okay. Cool. You guys memorized this already? These 4 slides? I've given you an example. Okay, cool. Again, this is just highlighting, we need to talk about the individual stuff. Some graphics diagram, okay? Now, for this slide, it's a table. If you look at the left-hand side, there is the purpose, the people, and the progress. For purpose, we talk about ethics and design thinking. Those are the two key framework we need to address. For people, the 3 areas are reconstructing the service agility, safety culture, stress prevention. How are you actually distressing? You guys go cycling? You guys go running? You guys go karaoke? What do you do? BCA people don't do anything? No stress? Very, very okay? Not sure. Okay. Now, as you progress, they're working in a complex environment, lean culture until continual improvement. So this table here just showing you what are the framework, which are the things that will apply in terms of the behavior that we spoke about. Okay, so have a read. If you have questions, we will discuss that tomorrow as well or later, or can ask me straight away. Guiding principles. Again, there is potentially questions coming out from this kind of table to say that what is the guiding principle that will fall under which behavior. So if you read at the table, it says accept ambiguity and uncertainties. There are 3 guiding principles which apply. So if you read them, it says that's where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, and think and work holistically. So again, these are very simple to understand. So if you read the table, you just have to know which principle it ties to. Okay, so you remember your ITIL 4 foundation stuff, and now it's just adding a different dimension to the behavior that we need to display. Any questions so far? No? Yes? Any examples that I need to give you how to implement? Have an idea? Okay. Don't worry about the e-learning or the topics. Like I said, there are plenty more. If you have a specific area you want to ask me, I will try and gorek, I will try and cari, I will actually try and show you as well. Boleh je, ada. Okay, cool. Now, the table just now, they put it into the category which is the purpose, the people, and the progress, which is in the table. Now it comes with the definition. What are all these 3 things that ITIL is trying to classify? Yeah? This is the definition of purpose. Any questions? Read the definition. The soalan ke tak? Any questions?
What is the meaning of the external goal?
Purpose is the external goal that drives people's effort. So if you're working for BCA, what is BCA's purpose? Anybody?
To fulfill the customer needs.
What needs is that?
Easier banking transaction, maybe?
Easier banking with BCA?
Yes.
So that will be an external goal, Ibu Trista. So the question is, what is your external goal for working with BCA? You want a career? You want a good salary package? You want a good environment with BCA? Now those would be your external goal. Because BCA is providing that to you. So just now, we talk about BCA provide easy banking. That's what the customer want. Am I correct? So that's considered as an external goal because you are working towards that. Question? You need me to explain again, or it's an English definition? Don't forget, I keep saying this is an English exam. So if you don't understand the English, please ask. There's nothing wrong with asking me question on that. Okay? Okay, don't be shy, please. Okay, so purpose is defined as an external goal that drives people's effort that will change in the product and services enabled. That means that the way the services and product are provided, and just now you guys gave me a definition to say that easy banking with BCA, right? So what is defined as easy? So how can we make it easy for our customer to bank with BCA? Betul tak? Right? So we also, if that's the goal, that is the purpose why BCA exists. Okay, so you also sometimes have to ask yourself, why does my role exist? Why does BCA have this position that I am working in? What is the purpose? So if I am continual management, if I'm in incident management, if I'm in service management, if I'm in QC management or QA management, what's the purpose of my role? Okay, be clear on that. Next, ethics. Again, definition. It's a principle that defines what is good for individual and society. Do the right thing, do what is right. That's what I call ethics. Okay. Now, design thinking, set of cognitive and practical techniques as design concepts are developed. This is a very ITIL definition. For me, design thinking is actually re-engineering the customer experience in an innovative way. That's how I would explain it. So if people ask me, John, you teach design thinking, right? So what is design thinking? Well, design thinking is just a framework that you can apply or a set of tools that you can use to make it more innovative for the customer journey. That's all. What makes sense to the customer? Okay, that's what applying design thinking is all about. Again, this is the ITIL definition on the screen there. Please make sure you read that and understand that. Okay, now next thing. Why is ethics important? Do you guys have a code of business ethics document to say that how employees or staff of BCA needs to behave? Ada ke tak? You should have one. Every business should have a code of business conduct or ethics in that sense. How an employee of BCA should behave. Okay. To HR, if there isn't one, I believe most organizations should have one. Okay, so it just explained in one slider some of the key points there. Why ethics is important, because it's actually the right behavior that we need to see displayed in the individual for the benefit of others and the organization. Okay, so this is very important. Now, if you don't talk about ethics in the organization or in your team, some of the behaviors that may be a bit gray, you should address it. Okay, maybe it's not acceptable to you or acceptable to the team or organization. Please talk about it. This is very important. Okay, next, education. So basically, it talks about how do we educate people. So like I said earlier, I was asking, do you have a document that talks about ethics? If there isn't, typically HR should come up with one, or the management should come up with one. It talks about how you should behave. So you actually have to talk about the education part, create the awareness. As an employee or representative of BCA, this is how we behave. This is how we are expected to interact with others. Things like integrity has to be there. Things like trustworthiness has to be there. Why? Because we're in the banking industry. People have trust us. Why? They're putting their money in our bank, right? They entrust us to process that amount, right? To actually keep that safe, right? Okay. So those kind of things, we need to actually talk about that from an education perspective. In some of the organizations that I used to work for, annually, every year, we actually have to do an e-learning or an exam or mini quiz of sort for some of these topics like cybersecurity, like what we call ethics of code of business conduct and stuff like that. We actually have to actually pass those exams. If not, HR will come chasing, hey John, pass Hey John, you punya budak belum buat lagi So actually we have to do that as part of the education to remind people this is how we should behave. Now, of course, a lot of people may say, berkesan, but this is actually a requirement from the regulatory bodies, unfortunately, from the central bank or the central governance committee or certain things like that. So they actually expect us to do that. So you might want to check it out, see whether that applies in your organization or not. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, like I said, it's all concepts. Cool. Organization design. What do we understand about this? It says there, the keyword, follow the principle of collaborate and promote visibility. You've done this in ITIL 4. What does that mean? Anybody can help me out? Collaborate and promote visibility. How do we do that?
We need to communicate the objective that we need to achieve.
Okay, so that means that, for example, if you work with another team, say you work with Pak Irfan, then you say, okay, Pak, we're going to do this together, and then you communicate, right? So how do you promote that visibility? That you're working with Pak Irfan, for example, on this project, say, business continuity project, for example. So how do you promote that visibility? Any idea? Afan, ada idea ke tak? Macam mana nak promote visibility? Very simple.
Still with the
Huh?
communication, right? Discussion.
Yes, start with communication. So how do you promote that
What is the
visibility?
vision and what is the value for what the project is?
And who do you share that to?
The team, the organization.
That's how you promote visibility. You share it with the team, to the wider community, to your bosses, the leadership team, to say that I'm working with Pak here. We are doing this together. This is the timeline, and this is what we hope to achieve as an outcome for the benefit of BCA. Not just you alone, you are doing it together.
To all stakeholders, man.
Yes. Okay, you need to talk about it. You need to present. You need to provide an update. You need to actually implement it. Okay, that's very key. The collaborate and promote visibility. That means it's actually about teamwork among the team. Okay, now the rest of the 2 points, it says that cognitive and cultural diversity. I know BCA is very much, you guys are based in Indonesia, right? You don't have Malaysia branch yet. You don't have a Singapore branch yet, right? Right. So if you do, you need to be conscious of the different culture in the different countries. Okay. Or if you have a branch in China, that's going to be interesting. Right? Even though you call them, we are Asian, but we all have our uniqueness, right? So the diversity of the culture, the understanding, it needs to be there. Right. The last point, you say long-term trust rather than short-term gain. Okay, that means that you actually have to collaborate, build a relationship with each other so that you can support each other. So the organization design in this case, it doesn't, to me, it's very simple. It's basically how you actually get to work with other teams. That's why previously I did ask the question, do you have any friends in the business team? And you guys tell me that, application team handle. Yes, but you should take an active interest to engage with the business team so that the business team know, Irfan is doing continuity. Hey, never know, first time. How does this help us? You understand what I'm saying? So you have to introduce yourself. You have to tell them what you do and how they can also tell you what they do. Okay, so this part, like I said, the engagement must happen. Okay. Habits and the role of failure. What's the famous thing about failure? Does your organization tolerate failure? Anybody had failure before? As a high velocity IT company, when we talk about failure, there's one phrase which has been used in a lot of organizations that I used to work for. They say, fail fast, learn fast. I repeat, fail fast, learn fast. So if you fail, you must fail it fast. Don't fail like 6 months later, 6 years later, no. If you fail in the first 6 days or the first 6 weeks, that's good, but you need to learn from that mistake, that lesson learned. Why did we fail? Okay, and the leadership team, your team itself must take it as a learning opportunity. This is again the mindset change. People must also always learn, okay, we make a mistake in the configuration, we make a mistake on the release, for example, which causes a crash. Okay, what can I learn from this? How can I improve on this? Don't point finger. Salah lah, dia lah, ini yang tak buat kerja lah, ini yang tak buat inilah. Please don't do that. Okay? Please accept it as a team to say that if one person's failure, it's the entire team's failure. Even as a project manager previously, if my team members or the vendor or the partners make a mistake, I will stand in front of the customer or the management team and say, I am at fault. I take the full responsibility because I didn't check. I could have done better. Okay, lessons learned. what we should be doing better, how we can avoid this mistake, how we can minimize the impact. This is the role of failure. It actually has to be a learning experience. And make sure you document this. A lot of people don't document this. I actually document it and I actually talk about it in my departmental meeting as well. We actually present it at the year end to say that, okay, we have made X number of mistakes. These are the lessons learned. And guess what? After that, here are the improvement plans that we have implemented out of those lessons or mistakes that we have done. So this is actually tied to the continuous improvement concept or the mindset. So you make mistake, you own up, figure out what went wrong, figure out what can be improved, and implement those improvements. Ini penting. Okay, don't just do one part and then forget about the rest. Then the failure has got no value. Right? Make sense? So I'm not going to read the rest. Like I said, I'm going to let you guys read that. But typically, if I were to summarize, that's how I would actually do it. Okay? Next one. Ethics and artificial intelligence. Ooh, anybody can explain to me how this works? I'll let you read the slide. If you guys can give me an example, it will show that you fully understand it. Have you guys used artificial intelligence before? No? Yes? Maybe? Anybody uses Netflix? You watch Netflix, right? Yeah, see?
Yes.
So when you go to Netflix, what's going to happen? They're going to show you all the Korean drama, all the Korean love story, all the handsome
Yes.
boy, handsome girl,
Yes.
beautiful girls, right? My wife watched that, not me. I watched something else. So that is actually an artificial intelligence. Based on your preference or selection, artificial intelligence actually pre-suggests certain shows. So the question comes in is that ethical? That's something that we need to be conscious because all this artificial intelligence, right, is actually written by us as a human being. So when they put this topic out, right, for ethics and artificial intelligence, right, how are we pre-qualifying our BCA customer, for example, to receive a platinum card? Is there an algorithm? I'm sure there is. How do you qualify as a platinum customer of BCA? You need to be what? There has to be a certain condition, right? Maybe your risk department say, oh, John, tak boleh. Jangan. That pay master. Potentially. Okay. So ethics and artificial intelligence, you have to understand whatever that we use the machine to automate certain things, especially the artificial intelligence, they could be a biasness. They could be a pre-programmed condition, which is our personal judgment being included in the programming. So that's why they say that when you use artificial intelligence, like I use that example, right? How do you qualify as a BCA, platinum credit card customer, right? There should be a certain criteria of sort. Now, if it's a human being that is assessing John as a potential customer to receive this benefit, right? Easier. But if it's an artificial intelligence whereby you process it digitally, then the question is it ethical? That's just an example. I'm sure there are many, many more. Or even if you do a promotion material, how do you actually select that target audience if you use artificial intelligence to actually promote that? Be conscious of that because a lot of time people say artificial intelligence is actually good, but I would say yes, but it must provide the right context and the right ethics. Right? Because artificial intelligence is not going to go away. It's going to continue to be more developed. It's going to come in our daily life, regardless of the product we use, like Netflix, or even like YouTube. I use a lot of YouTube, right? So I go in, right? You see a lot of suggested video. I'm like, suggest this. I just saw it once. Why? I click on a car, a pickup truck kind of a YouTube. Guess what? They keep showing me pickup truck. I'm like, I don't want to buy a pickup truck. Why show me pickup truck for what? Or I click on a clip of people dancing. I'm not interested in dancing. I want to see documentary. Why are you showing me all the dancing clip? Right? So yeah. So whether that works or not, to be seen now. Okay. Any question on this one? Ethics and artificial intelligence. Okay. The thing is, you guys need to talk about is actually the context when you talk about artificial intelligence. Okay. There are specific courses that talks about this as well. Okay. Right. Next slide. So they asked us to talk about the technology topics for discussion. So apart from the example that I just gave, any other topics, which is the tool, the Netflix, the YouTube, plus the selecting of me as a potential platinum credit card customer, apa lagi? That could involve a bit of an ethics issue. Of a higher purchase loan with BCA, potentially there could be an ethics issue whereby you don't provide a certain amount of loan based on my income. Potentially. I'm not sure what's the ruling nowadays, but I think you guys know better, right? Apa lagi? Ada kata? You pre-qualify certain customer. No? Okay, something to think about. Okay, right. Key messages. Think about how the actions affect others, establish generic ethical principles. So this is again still talking about ethics, huh? Accept ethical principles simply to clarify the situation, discuss the dilemma. So what if I don't qualify? What's the next option? Okay, so basically they're saying that if you are applying an artificial intelligence to pre-select a certain group of customer, to do a certain process for certain customers, be aware of the thought process that you're putting into processing that and make sure you document it, because if there is an audit situation, if there is a inquiry or a complaint, these items will become very important. Okay, these items will become very important. Why John don't qualify? John just lodged a complaint. He wants a platinum card from BCA Bank. Wow, okay. Don't. I got enough credit cards already. Okay, make sense? Remember this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The key behaviors. We've given examples. How to accept ambiguity and uncertainty, how to be trust and trusted, how to raise the bar, how to help get customer job done, and how to continue learning. Okay, the 5 behavior. Good. Design thinking. Again, definition again. So, in design thinking itself, we first start off with empathizing with the stakeholder, or what we call the customer that is going to use our service. We put ourselves in their shoe. So we assume that I said, John, I want to be a customer of BCA. I want to improve our higher purchase loan. Okay, assuming I'm applying for a BCA higher purchase loan. So you need to understand the customer mindset. In other words, we need to look at the persona of the customer. Who would be that person like John who is going to apply for a higher purchase loan with BCA? So you need to understand the motivation of the stakeholder. Make sense? So once you've identified that, which is the empathize with the stakeholder, the next thing you need to do is to look at, okay, if this group of users were to apply with BCA for the higher purchase loan, How could we make it better? How could we make the experience a little bit more easier? Why? Our as-is process says it takes 3 weeks to approve the hire purchase loan. How could we make it maybe down to 3 days without breaching any compliance rule? Right? So that is the speculate and experiment part. Okay? Then the last part, there to decide, you need to also choose from the customer perspective what is important to them. Is it getting it done in 3 days or 3 weeks? Or is it to say that, John, you are qualified to actually, based on this precondition, you're qualified to take a hire purchase loan of X number of amount? What is it that we are trying to achieve here? So when we talk about design thinking, this is typically some of the very summarized process that you need to actually go through. Like I said, today I'm probably not going to do justice. I'm going to just talk for like 10 minutes on this, right? The design thinking training course is a 3-day thing which you actually have to run through the exercise using the tools to apply, right? To actually come out with something that's actually much more tangible, much more meaningful in that sense. Okay, so in the exam, you just have to understand these are the 3 steps that you need to do. Any questions so far? Okay, if anything else, focus on customer journey. Like I give the example, 3 minggu, nak setiap approval, 3 hari. Would that be possible? Walking into the branch to fill up the form to apply versus if I do an online application on my mobile phone or through the web. Is that possible? Yeah. That is design thinking. Is to explore innovative idea differently, whether that's possible. Start lagi ya, implement lagi ya. Any question on design thinking? You guys, have you guys done any design thinking? No? Yes? Don't think you guys have done design thinking. Please come for class. I just did one 2 weeks ago for another company. They came with me with 2 specific topics. So at the end of the 3 days, they had some solution to the topics which is relevant to their company, and they were able to look at convincing their leadership team to implement it. Okay, of course, they learned the tools and all that stuff. Seriously, design thinking is quite an interesting tool if you want to actually innovate on how to make the business run differently. Okay, right. So in terms of design thinking, they're saying that you need to actually make sure you apply all this as well. Okay, so that is just the framework. Right, so we've just done with purpose. So next we will go into people. So who are the people? Anybody know? We are the people. Okay, right. So in order to do that, we need to work on 3 things according to ITIL. One is to reconstructing for service agility. Wow, that's a very big word. So basically is to say that it's actually organizing the work and service provision to show the complexity and the social nature. So let me explain this. This is actually a very difficult sentence to understand. So when we talk about reconstructing for service agility, right, is to make sure you have the right people in the right team during the right function in order to service our stakeholder. I'll repeat again. What this sentence means is that to have the right people in the right team to service or perform the function for the stakeholder. That's all there is. Now, if the organization for some reason does not have this in place, you cannot serve the customer. So this is like the example of applying for a hire purchase loan. So definitely you need a hire purchase department of sort, right? So what are the things that do with hire purchase? First, you're going to have inquiry for sure, right? People are going to ask, hey, John, how do I apply for hire purchase with BCA? Inquiry is going to come, right? Then you're going to have application of the form, right? That means who wants to apply. So how do I qualify to apply? Now, after you apply, how do you, what is the end result? Do I get approved, not approved? How do you communicate that? How do you process that? Now, once it's actually approved, what do you do? The people have to actually agree to service the hire purchase loan and all that. And finally, to close it. So all this require different groups of people with different key functions within the hire purchase department in order to provide that service. So what they're saying is you must have people able to run through the process. Itu sahaja. There's nothing else. So it's actually using a very long sentence to explain what I've just explained. Okay? Safety culture. People must be able to express and tell, John, I have a problem. John, I need a break. John, what? John, this is not right. Is that happening within your team? Because if everybody keep quiet, there may be a disaster. Okay. Now, stress prevention, it talks about preventing, monitoring, remedial unhealthy tension in workplace. So I'm not too familiar with BCA culture, but in some companies are very aggressive. You need to actually show that you start hitting certain numbers. Say if it's a sales organization, they need to make sure you hit certain numbers in order to meet your KPI. So I know BCA is probably not that. So what is causing stress in BCA? I think you guys know, but how do you help to prevent, monitor, and remedial that? That is what we need to do. So what's causing stress in BCA? Anybody want to share? Bagi tahu sikit-sikit. Ada ke tak? Oh, BCA is a very good place to work. Tak ada stress, John. Langsung tak ada. Ada stress ke tak? How you guys do this?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Talking
Ibu.
about the people, right? It means I want to ask about the workload management. In my team, we are the developer for the ITSM tools, right? Is there any method or any platform that we can use for the how to manage the workload from a team?
Okay.
How to assign the tasks, how to...
Okay. Okay, good question, but let me ask a few qualifying questions first, Ibu. So you mentioned that you are specifically on ITSM2, which is the service desk, am I correct?
No, we are the developer. Me and I and Mas Catur.
Oh, okay.
Is the
So you are
ITSM developer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, if you are the ITSM developer, that means you write programs, you enhance the feature, you create new reporting and all that, right?
Yes,
okay.
Right.
Are you guys doing DevOps?
No.
Yeah.
No, maybe.
Yeah, no.
Ibu, I already said yes and you say no. Okay, so
In we build the ITSM tools. We don't use DevOps because the tools is not support to DevOps.
okay. DevOps is a way of working. It's a way of writing program. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are DevOps. So if you do DevOps, you need to have 3 groups of people in the DevOps team. Let me explain a little bit, then I'll come back to your problem. Okay. First thing first, you must have what we call a product owner. He or she owns the entire budget, entire tools. So if this person is the product owner, he or she owns the ITSM tool. So he represents the ITSM tool itself, product owner. Role number 1. Role number 2, you must have a Scrum Master. So I typically play the role of Scrum Master in my previous organization. I actually teach the team or guide the team. Like you mentioned this problem of workload, right? Or you mentioned this problem and say, John, how do I actually use a Kanban board, for example. So I will go in and explain and teach them, hold their hands to say, okay, this is how you use a Kanban board. This is how it will benefit you. Okay, so that's the Scrum Master role. The third role, which is the most important role, which is the developer plus operation team. They are what we call the developers itself, the developer. So it's not just the people who write the codes, it's also people who actually support the system. Okay. Now in DevOps, when we start a sprint, remember I said the sprint, which is a fixed period of 2 to 4 weeks, right? We will pull down the requests in your world. I think you call it request, right? In the DevOps world, they call it backlog. The same. They will pull down the user requirement. Then the developers, which is the development or the programmers plus the operation people, will sit down to say, John, for this sprint of 2 weeks, I can only do item 1, 2, and 3. Item 4, sorry, tak boleh, tak jadi, tak nak. So the team agrees with the product manager to say that I can only do item 1, 2, and 3 because this is our workload. That's it. So if you do DevOps, the workload is very manageable. Now, for whatever reason, let's say there are one of your team members has fallen sick, you need to renegotiate with the product owner to say that, look, I have one team member that is like COVID infected. He's going to be out of action for 1 week. Previously, we've submitted item 1, 2, and 3. Based on now, I can only do item 1 and 3. Item 2, sorry, I cannot deliver. It will have to put back into the backlog, into the user requirement. We will come back again on the next sprint, the so-called time to actually do it. If it's a traditional one, when you look at your user requirement, you guys need to do the estimation a little bit better. Okay? Because you see traditionally, right, you have this problem whereby people are working in different areas. So you may have a UI UX designer, you may have an integration engineer, you may have an architect of sort, right? All doing different things. So you could be waiting on each other. That's why we are saying that if you can migrate to the new way of doing software development, which is DevOps, where everybody is on the team, everybody can do that estimation, that is what you will commit. So basically, if you tell me you have a workload issue, which means there are only a few ways to do it. One, product owner or the project manager needs to get the input from you guys. If he or she doesn't get that, he commit blindly, bulat-bulat, they commit boleh, you will be overworked. Okay, that's the first thing. Second of all, when you do the estimation, when you look at the user requirement or the user story, right, in this case, right, you need to think, if I have a sprint of, say, DevOps 2 weeks, which is 10 business days, I need to develop, I need to test, and I need to deploy. Everything, that whole cycle is 10 business days. That's it. So if you can't do it, you need to let people know upfront. If it's a traditional one, it's a little bit difficult. So you have to actually have the estimation a little bit accurate. And a lot of time when you guys do development, I know there's one big thing that is going to stop you. You know what is that? Security. Am I correct? After you finish the code, right? Cybersecurity comes, sorry, Ibu, tak boleh. This one tak pass. Guess what? You are already behind schedule, and then the new work still comes in. So workload-wise, you need to get a little bit better on the estimation. You need to actually talk to the project manager. You need to actually make sure you estimate that a little bit better in that sense. So typically, I would advise you like this. If you're doing traditional, don't assume you'll be working 8 hours a day. Please assume your actual work hours is 6, no more than 6.5. I repeat again, if you're doing traditional programming work or writing the codes, right, 6 to 6.5. That's the amount of time you can commit. Because if you commit 8 hours, you are going to be overburdened. Does that help, Ibu?
Yes, sir. Maybe one more question.
Yeah, go ahead. But this, you understand the concept that I'm explaining, right?
Is there any method or any way to us to know the capacity of the one developer?
Okay, the one developer, the estimation typically is very difficult. You would have to base on your own experience. So let me explain why. Let's say you are doing a login screen to an application, right? So it requires a username, a password, and then an authentication process at the back, right? And then to show the screen, right? So it's a separate process, right? So the question will be how long it would take you to do that screen. 4 hours? 1 day? Now, if you are telling me, John, I will take me 4 hours to do it. Now, if a developer come and say, John, I need 2 days, what does that mean? Not very efficient, right? But if the developer say, John, I can probably do it in 6 hours. Okay, that will indicate this is a junior developer who can eventually improve to 4 hours. So every piece of work, right, you should have your own estimation. Again, that is not, I should say, specific. Because you could have done it for the last 15 years. The developer may have just done it for the last 5 years after they graduate from college. So they need 6 hours to complete that. But anybody telling you that you need 2 days, I will like, seriously? Nah, you can't do it. It's probably wrong. I used this kind of estimation when I was a field engineer, when I first started my career in IT. Oh, by the way, I'm a trained programmer, but I'm actually doing mainframe programming, not on those programming that you guys are doing. So I'm very, very old, very ancient in that sense. Using COBOL, SQL. Okay. So I actually started the field engineer service. So I actually asked my engineer how long it takes to settle this incident. Let's say it's a hard disk crash. I know that he needs to recover the data. He needs to re-image the thing. He needs to change the component. So if the guys tell me he need 8 hours, I will say fail. Why? Because if I'm doing it, I will take no more than 3 hours. Okay, so if my engineer tell me, John, it take 8 hours, I'll say, nah, you will fail. But if you say, John, I will take about 5 hours, I will like, okay, pretty much there. So I do know the amount of work, or even like a virus infection, right? So I would say, how long it takes you to fix it? If it tells me it takes 4 hours, I was like, should be less than 3 or even an hour. So you have to actually know your work to actually know how to estimate it. Okay, and again, please set the expectation with the project manager or the product owner to say that if you guys are overworked, you guys are overworked. And don't forget the security part, because a lot of the programming, right, still needs to be reviewed and approved by cybersecurity or your security team before you can go into production, right? That takes time. Okay. Now, if you don't have a tool to scan for vulnerability as you do the coding, that will even slow down your development process. So one recommendation, if you're a developer, minta duit, ask for money, more rupiah, invest in the security scanning tool. Because if you pass to cybersecurity, aduh, 2 minggu tak siap. 10 hari tak siap. But if you have the tool with you, as you finish writing the section of the code, you can actually run it. You can actually see whether it's compliant or not. Okay, so these are the changes that I will recommend to make sure you have tools, you have better estimation. Make sure if you can change the way that you're doing the traditional programming, whereby you give a requirement and you commit a time, right? Factor in all these things, especially a buffer, like I mentioned, because if not, you will be overworked. And don't commit more than 6.5 hours per day. you still need to take break, right? You drink coffee, tea, no? Only water. Ibu?
Water,
Yeah.
just water, only
I
water.
just water. Oh, very healthy. I'm not very good at that. But you understand the whole concept, right? Okay, good question, by the way.
Okay,
So
thank you, sir.
yeah, no problem. Please ask. Like I said, I've done some of this job before. Even if I actually manage the developers, right, the programmers, I always tell them, please tell me your best estimation or effort based on 6.5 hours per day. And I said, John, why? But I have 8 hours. I said, yeah, but we still have meetings, right? Oh, meetings, yeah. Stand-up meeting is 15 minutes to half an hour per day, which means that will leave you 7.5 hours. Then I said, do you need to eat lunch break, coffee break, tea break? Yeah, that's half an hour. So that's 1 hour gone, 7 hours left. See what I'm saying? So if you commit 6.5 hours, that's pretty close to 7 hours per day. Be realistic, seriously, guys. I understand the pressure we all on to need to work faster, right? But that can only come if you have a realistic estimation. Okay. Now, of course, people will say, "No, John, I'm willing to work after 6, after 7." Then I always tell them, "Hey, Maghrib, you need to solat, right?" For all my Muslim brothers and sisters, I said, "No, you need to pray. Go pray." No, seriously. I mean, I'm being practical, right? I can't ask people to cancel their Maghrib prayer, right? That's so unfair, right? It's not the right thing to do. Yeah. So yeah, please be practical and realistic. Communicate that and estimate very carefully the number of hours, and also factor in the annual leave. You still need to take leave, right? How many days annual leave you guys have in BCA? 20 days? 15? Do you factor that in your development time? If you don't, I suggest you add it in. You are not available when you go on leave. You cannot be applying annual leave and working at the same time, right?
Yes.
Don't do that. I used to do that. Bad habit. Apply leave and then I'm working. So my wife said, are you on leave or you're working? I said, both. Don't do that, please. That's not the right way to do. Make sense? So please sit down with your team, sit down with the product owner, if you have one, or the project manager to say that in order for us to finish this, when we say we commit X number of days, these are the conditions. Because if not, you overestimate, you will end up in that situation that you mentioned. Make sense? And don't forget, there is still an upskilling that you guys need to do. You need to learn new technology. You need to learn new ways of writing codes, right? So are you even allocating time for that? Remember, I said
guess
1 hour
no.
per week? Yeah. So how can you improve? So think about it. If you want to be a high velocity organization, right? You don't invest even 1 hour per week for your developers to learn new ways of writing code faster, right? They will forever be at the same speed that we are in today, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, the same speed. I can guarantee you that. Unless we make the investment today and say that, okay, this week, I'm going to ask everybody to spend 1 hour to learn new ways of doing things faster. So that in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, we cut our development time, let's say, from 5 days to 4.5 days, for example. Now, that's an improvement. So understand the concept when I say the continuous improvement, continuous learning part is actually very key. Because if you're not doing it, right, you will get stuck in this endless cycle. You can't get out, unfortunately. I've been there, done that too many times. Okay. Now, as a manager, last time what I did also sometimes after office hours, I sometimes train my staff as well. That means after 6, I buy Starbucks coffee, I buy donuts. I said, we will finish before Maghrib. You go for your prayers. Let's have a quick 1 hour learning. Here is a new technique that I've learned. Can you guys pick this up? I teach them. After the coffee, the donut, go for your prayer. Please go home. See you tomorrow. Bye. Next week, we continue again. You have to do that, because if you don't invest in that, you will get into that situation. Very unfortunate. So from the people side, right, please talk about upskilling. I cannot stress enough. Even reading. Okay, you need to help your team, or should I say, at least you need to help yourself.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
No problem. I hope I've given you some practical suggestion, right? Some ideas to think about how you can actually try to do this differently. Okay. Any other question? Thanks, Ibu Henny. That was a very good question. Ada lagi soalan? Ada any examples that I can give? No? Yes? Cool? No, please ask. Like I said, this kind of stuff, because if I can share, it will hopefully give you an idea of what to do next. Right. So people, like I said, the most important asset in our organization is our team. We need to take care of them, because if you don't take care of them, they will not be performing like a Superman or Wonder Woman. They will be performing as they are 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Please help them to do better. Okay, cool. Right. So when we talk about reconstruction of service agility, so we need to look at the complexity of the organization chart, the business unit that we already have, and you need to look at how we can actually address that to make it or to tune it to actually better deliver a value. So like Ibu Henny was explaining just now, there was a challenge in her case whereby she is struggling, as in she's overworked. So I highlighted things like your estimation. So perhaps you actually need to factor in certain things like the security testing tools, or even improving the process or learning new ways of doing things. That is something that you need to be very conscious of in your specific job function, how you can perhaps try to do a little bit better. Because if you don't align to this service agility, right, that means the business wants to change, want to do things a little bit faster. How do you address that? So it's not just about hiring new people. Focus on the existing team as well. If you get the budget to hire new people, buy it. Seriously, it's the best. But if you can't, look at how you can improve the team. Okay, so that's what it's all about. Personal value. So, why do you work for BCA? Anybody has any idea who want to share? Why do you work for BCA? What's the personal value? Why do you do the things that you do? Anybody want to share? Let me share a little bit. Why do I want to become a trainer? I have worked in multiple countries. I have worked in multiple roles. I felt strongly that if I share my experience, it will help others make the same mistake that I have made in some of my career. Okay, so by being a trainer, my personal value is to value add to you by sharing some of the mistakes that I've done, or give you an idea of how perhaps you can try to do it differently. So that's my personal value. Okay, so what is your personal value? Anybody want to give it a try? Let's talk a little bit more on this. Wow, very shy this afternoon. Everybody very quiet. Yes, no, maybe? Okay, I'll leave it to you. All right, yes.
Maybe
yes,
me.
Pak Robi.
I'm stuck with the mainframe. No, the first time is in network team. and then I moved to mainframe system.
Right. Okay.
And then I start to move to service management. My value is I have a technical background. I want to use my knowledge, my experience to do some more value, analyze the changes in our BCA production, so I can make a better implementation.
Oh, very good. Okay. So,
Yeah, like,
so don't just ask yourself what is your personal value. Why do you work for BCA? You should have a dialogue with your team, your individual team members, and say, why are you still here?
yeah.
No, seriously, ask that question. Why are you still here? I have team members tell me, they say, John, I'm here because you are here. So I'm like, why? Oh, because I can learn from you. I said, okay. So I said, what if I'm not longer around? So what would you do? Ask that question. What is their personal value? So that you can actually help them achieve what they need to achieve. Why are you here? Why are they here? Okay. This is actually a bit of a psychology or the human part stuff that I think as a leader, right? If you want to drive for high velocity, you need to actually ask that. Sorry, there was a question in the chat that was sent by Ibu. I'm starting to think about that after hearing this question. You mean nobody has asked you this? Oh my goodness. Aduh. Well, I'm asking you that question. You need to actually do some self-reflection to say that why am I doing this? Because if you say that I'm here to make BCA better, then I say, great, fantastic. Let's work together to make BCA better. Like Pak Robbie was saying that, hey, I want to share my technical knowledge. I want to make a better implementation of how BCA it is, right? Hopefully BCA will last for another 20 years, 50 years, right? Hey, fantastic. That's a great vision. You know? Oh yeah, because of the environment, you've got great friends in BCA, great culture. You know, Pak Irfan is there, you know, Sachatur is there and all these things, right? Everybody is there supporting, right? That's great. But ask your other team members as well. What is their personal value? Okay? Because one thing that ITIL talks about is the teamwork. Very, very key. You need to understand your team, how their psychological makeup, how they actually drive for things, so that you know how to lead them in the right direction. Okay, so that's what this slide to me is all about. To me, I think you guys need to actually start asking the hard question. You don't have to tell me if you're not comfortable, but if you're comfortable, do share with me. I'll be happy to hear that feedback from you as well. Right. What is the key message? So it says here, lose.
Questions.
Yes, please.
One question, John.
Yep.
Is whether you do your job, you like your job, or you like your job and you do. What I mean is, kamu lebih suka mengerjakan itu karena kamu suka atau karena memang apa ya? What do you know? Karena kita bekerja ada yang suka dan tidak suka.
So if they tak suka, what do we do? That's something you need to think about.
Just work, yeah, just.
I know, but those are the what we call underperforming resources that are not reaching the potential.
Maybe
right? If they're not helping themselves, they're not helping the team.
Ada yang performing juga, but they do just not with the heart, maybe like that. They don't like the job, but they do the best. Like that.
So perhaps we can find out if there is any hidden talent. We should encourage this person to move to another team whereby he or she can perhaps contribute better.
Yes.
So because the thing is, if they don't like what they do now, they're still doing what they do, then you need to ask them, are you going to get stuck here for the next 20 years? Probably not,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
But you still need to tell me what is it that you would like to do. How can I put you in the right team, in the right position, so you can showcase your skill? Because everybody is a superstar. You just have to actually find a place for them to actually do that. So that's why I said asking those questions are key. Now, the key messages, if you look at it, right, it said loosen control. So that's why earlier I mentioned, I said, I trust them, but I will validate. Remember? Okay, I trust them, but will validate. Right? And then you say use process as temporary scaffolding to provide support. Now, I mentioned also, if I'm being entrusted by my team, I provide an update. That's my process. Okay, so they say, John, can you help to do this? They say, yeah, I will do this. I will give you an update. I will tell you what I'm doing. I share my, what we call, cara pemikiran, the thought process to them. Because I want to also leave a legacy of how to think critically, how to solve problems. Because eventually, if I'm not around, right, hey, you need to do the job that I do, right? You need to train the team. You need to enable them. Now, of course, I also respect each other's value and point of view. I tell them as a manager, I will make the final call, but I want to be inclusive in the dialogue, in the discussion. Make sense? Okay, so have that engagement with your team because that is super important. Right, guys, conscious of time, I'm going to close off the meeting for today with this last slide here. Okay, so basically they're saying that those that are highlighted in the bright maroon red, those are the ones that are the behavior that we need to display. Okay, so I'm going to stop at this slide, which is 121. We will do revision tomorrow morning, esok pagi, and we will actually continue from this slide onwards. Any questions so far? Is there any other relevant thing like Ibu Henny wanted to highlight certain things or any situation that I can actually help give you a suggestion of how to do this or not? Does that make sense? Engaging your team is key. Now, if that person, like I said, is not performing, there must be a reason why he's not performing. Likely that we have not given the right task or he or she is not interested because this is not something they want to do. We might have to move that person to a different team. Typically, I actually talk about that. I ask them, which team you want to join? Then they say, oh, John, I want to join this other team. Then I say, okay, do you have the skill sets to qualify for me to recommend you to join that team? How do I tell the hiring manager of that team to take you in? Then they say, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. Okay, can you learn? Can I train you? Can I help you become that person so you qualify and move to that team? Then we talk about timeline, right? When you want to transfer immediately, okay, I'll set up the interview, but if you don't meet or you don't qualify, so what do we do? You see where I'm coming from? Help them to think, help them to prioritize, help them to actually upskill themselves so that they can actually better serve BCA. You don't want to lose a talent, you don't want to lose a resource, but you are trying to encourage that resource or that talent to upskill to move to a place where he or she still contribute to BCA. That to me is actually the most important thing. So you might lose a team member, but eventually BCA gains another valuable resource in doing what they are good at. So a lot of time when people say, hey, John, you're willing to let go of people, I say, no, I'm willing to train. I'm not willing to let go, I'm willing to train. Make sense? Any other question, guys? Conscious of time. One last question. Ada soalan lagi ke? No? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about homework. Homework, remember, I did show you that there are about 12 papers, the practice guide. If you have time, please start reading. Okay. If you don't have time, go through some of the slide deck that we went through this morning. Just quickly flip through or download those material that we talk about. Tomorrow, I will definitely help you to do a revision and we will continue the training in that sense. Okay, don't worry. And if you have questions over this evening, you want to ask, you can actually drop me an email or you can ask tomorrow morning as we discuss that. Like I said, please ask more questions because I want to make sure all this theory stuff, right, can tie into your day-to-day work. Okay, because that is the only thing that will make it more relevant to you. Because all the course material, like I said, there, I will tell you what to read. I will tell you how to prepare. I will tell you how to sit for the exam. Boleh? All right. If no more questions, I will conclude the training for today and I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Jakarta time. Is it?
Yes.
9 o'clock.
Yes? Yeah. Sorry, 9 o'clock Jakarta time, 10 o'clock my time. Sorry, got it all mixed up.
9 o'clock.
Time zone difference. All right, guys, have a good evening. Hope you enjoyed today's session and I will stop the recording as we speak. And like I said, see you tomorrow. Okay?
See you
Bye,
tomorrow,
guys.
John.
Okay.
Bye.
See you
Bye.
Thank you,
tomorrow.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
John.
See you tomorrow.